Good afternoon, council staff and members of the public. Thank you for all coming along. Declare this meeting open. And there are no announcements from myself. We have an apology from Councillor Steele, and obviously the Mayor is on approved leave. The rest of us are here. I have one declaration of interest from Councillor Plum on 10.4.2, and that's an impartial interest as his children attend Grace Christian School in the area. Is there any other declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. I don't believe there's any public questions. Can I have somebody move the previous minutes? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Smith, thank you. All in favour? That's carried, thank you. I don't believe there's any petitions, councillors? No. There's no presentations, deputations. On to tonight's agenda. Coming out for discussion at this stage, councillors, is 10.4.1, which requires an absolute majority. 10.4.3, which also requires an absolute majority. And I only have those two at this stage. Was there any others? No? Happy with that. If that's the case, someone happy to move the other two en bloc? And Councillor Hayward, second Councillor McCreary. We'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. So through to 10.4.1, which is the West Australian Football Commission funding request. Councillor Plum.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to move an amendment, if I can, to those 3 points, or add a point,
Sure.
Fourth point onto that.
Yep. Sorry, before you do, Councillor, I'll just have someone second that before we do. Sorry, Councillor Smith. Yeah, so we'll just have somebody move the motion for now, and then we'll just... Yep. And Councillor Plum, your amendment?
Yeah, I think just in regards to the hands over being developed, I think it'd be good to have secure further opportunity there. So the amendment, the fourth point, would be that council gives authority for the CEO and BAG to enter into negotiations to secure further WAFL and WAFL women's games as a part of the funding partnership. Yep,
thanks, Councillor Plum. So that's slightly different to what we have on screen, but we might just get that rewritten on here. We'll just get you to read it out again.
Just a point of order,
yes, Councillor.
Mr Mayor. Just wondering if there's a seconder for this
we're just going to bring it up and then see if we get a seconder for this, Councillor Hayward. So I'll just bring it up on screen.
Sorry, we haven't got a seconder for the original
Yeah,
motion.
Councillor Smith was the seconder for the original motion.
We're dealing with an amendment.
Yes.
But we haven't got a seconder for the original motion.
So we're getting the amendment on screen now, Councillor McCreary, and then I'll ask for a seconder for the amendment.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I don't think that was what you were after, was it?
Just made a couple of modifications. Does that meet your intent, Councillor?
Yeah, I think obviously we don't want the whole deal to fall over based on this request. So obviously if BAG and the CEO enter into that negotiations, it would be good to secure, or at least have the option to secure further opportunities, given that we want to spend money and have more happen at Hands Oval.
Yes, Councillor McCreary. Yeah, so we'll just go back to, we have an initial motion, which was obviously the initial, the officer's recommendation. This is now an amendment to that initial motion. So the initial motion was moved by Councillor Plum and seconded by Councillor Smith. This is now Councillor Plum's amendment that we're dealing with. We have a point 4 and that's we need a seconder for this amendment. Thank you, Councillor Stack. Councillor Plum.
Yeah, as I said, I think hands over was a hot topic for a lot of people. We're going to need to put some funds into it over the next few years. And I suppose having more opportunity, like Waffle Games and in the future AFL Games, is obviously going to secure the feasibility of developing that and attracting funds to it. I understand that this doesn't necessarily guarantee any of that, but it certainly makes it a little bit more attractive. Having games in, and at the end of the day, as I said, wouldn't want this deal to fall over. I think 1 year is great, and if we can get it, that's great. But I think we also need to try and secure more opportunity. And if we're pitching in 35,000, then I think there should be some negotiation around contributing that as well. So it'd be good to see this supported.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. Yes, Councillor McCreary.
We're talking of hosting.
Yes.
So what would be the cost to that? Because $35,000 that's been asked for there is just for just over half of the broadcasting costs. So for me, I haven't been given any indication of actually hosting the West Australian Football Commission because we're not hosting it as such this time. What would that cost, please, Deputy Mayor?
Yes,
the
thank
community.
you. I'll just pass over to the CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The way that the amendment is currently structured is to enter into negotiations for first right of refusal. If those negotiations were looking successful, they would need to come back to council and to be considered through probably the BAG as a formal committee of council with recommendations to council as to whether the financial commitment is to be made. So it's not this recommendation, as I read it, is not committing the council to either fund or host those, but to seek first right of refusal.
Councillor Stack.
I'll just go back to what I said last week, and that is I would also support this, but I'd also like to see the contracts before they're signed, and I'd also like for us to enter into looking at bounce down advertising, because 2 30-second ads just doesn't cut it for me. But I'd urge people to support this motion. I think that as the former chair of the BAG, we've spent a lot of time nurturing to obtain events in the city, and I think this is a very good start. So congratulations, Councillor Plum. I really do support negotiating to continue to get this to Bunbury.
Thank you. The speaker against this amendment. Yes, Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Look, in principle, I agree with the thrust of this, but I realise that we're probably hands over may not even be available in the next couple of years with the proposed buildings and so on. So I think it's a bit premature to actually think about what we might do in the next couple of years if we've got, as we've talked about, temporary change rooms and, you know, all of that, because we've knocked down the change room to rebuild. So I think it's actually putting a bit of onus on the CEO to enter into something that may not even be possible. So I agree with all the rest of it, but I don't think this amendment is quite what we might be looking for. And the waffle is almost certainly, they spread it around. They never ever go to the same place 2 or 3 times in a row, so, or even twice in a row. So I think it's really pie in the sky. So I don't think it's really adds anything much to the rest of the recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaker 4. Councillor Plum.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, or stress that this is first right of refusal. Obviously, Waffle will plan games every year. Some of those may go to Geraldton, they might go to Esperance or Albany. We are the largest regional city in WA, and we have a ground that's being improved, has been improved, and will continue to get improved, and I think that's an attractive option. It is an option only, that's all it is. So I'd urge Council to support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. So, councillors, just so we're clear, we're now dealing with this amendment. If this is passed, obviously, then that'll form part of the new executive recommendation to go forward. So, I'll put that. All in favour? Those against? So that's lost. That amendment now forms, sorry, that's that one. So that amendment now forms part of the new motion. And that comes back to the original, which is Councillor Plum. Anything further to add on this, Councillor Plum? We still have to vote. Councillor Smith as seconder.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I would like to make a couple of comments.
Sure.
I'm old enough to remember that when you couldn't get to Perth to see cultural events or sporting events, and this is continuing a tradition of bringing things out of the metro area for our people to enjoy without a lot of inconvenience. I remember as a kid the West Australian Symphony Orchestra used to come to Harvey and play, once every 2 or 3 years, because kids in those days just didn't have the opportunity to go to Perth. So this is really continuing a great tradition of bringing cultural and sporting events out of the metro area into the regions so more people can enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there a speaker against this motion? No, I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, we move to 10.4.3, which again requires an absolute majority.
I have a few questions, if that's okay.
Yep, I'll just call for a mover as first. So we're on 10.4.3. That's 10.4.3 on my draft. Yeah, so what we're dealing with here is the Southwest Manufacturing Hub. Do I have a mover for this?
So moved.
Councillor Hayward, thank you.
Thank
Councillor Hayward's moved, Councillor Steck second. Questions? Okay. Councillor Hayward?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just I'd encourage all councillors to support this. I think this is a fantastic opportunity, a hub of excellence. What a fantastic opportunity for our young people moving forward, and have people at that high level being trained here. It's a small financial contribution, but it sends a big message to the state government that we're serious about this being here and wanting to have it here. And I think that we should support it, so I'd encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Councillor Steck? Was there any speaker against this motion? No? We'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. I believe that brings us to a close. There may have been, was there a proof leave? I believe that brings us to a close of the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. The meeting is closed.